Well, thanks for clicking on to Vogan's European Outlook. It is Thursday, the 30th of December. Tomorrow is Hogmanay, of course, and it's all about the warm weather at the moment across the British Isles. Strong low pressure to the west, high pressure to the east, and we're seeing our winds coming all the way from beyond the Canaries, in fact, into the UK airspace, and even temperatures up across the north of Scotland, where 2 afternoons ago it was stuck at around 0 or +1. This afternoon it was as high as 11 and 12 Celsius. So even across the far north of the British Isles, we were talking about some very, very mild air indeed. Of course, it's all eyes on tomorrow and, of course, New Year's Day. I put out a tweet literally seconds ago with the numbers that we are going to challenge and likely to exceed for both New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So, of course, the UK record for tomorrow, New Year's Eve, is 14.8. I think that will be comfortably beaten. And even for New Year's Day, 15.6 is likely to be challenged, if not beaten as well. And even nighttime temperatures, interestingly enough. Now, I do believe that there was a temperature recorded that got no lower than about 13.6 Celsius at Exeter Airport in Devon. And it looks as if it stayed above the England record, which, if we look here, so this is off the Met Office, the lowest temperature ever recorded in December for the UK was actually at Hardin Airport in Flintshire, Wales, at 15 Celsius. I don't believe that is going to be beaten. But if you look at England individually, the temperature this morning of 13.6 just missed the English record of 13.7 degrees Celsius here. So tonight we could see the temperature only falling to perhaps between 13.7 and 14 Celsius. So we may in fact record the warmest night on record for December in England over the course of this evening here. I don't think Scotland's going to be really challenged in any way. So, but certainly something worth keeping our eyes open on. So you can see here, this of course a tweet I put out this afternoon. 12 Celsius attained, whereas the temperature at the same time back on Tuesday, just 48 hours ago, was at 0 Celsius. And what's actually quite interesting is when you look at the monthly temperatures for, this is Germany, by the way. If you don't already and you have Twitter, please do follow me because I do quite a lot of tweets with regards to not just British Isles, but Europe and across the world as well. Germany, 16 Celsius this afternoon, whereas just several mornings ago we were talking about temperatures minus 16 to minus 18 Celsius. So pretty crazy stuff. So I put out a tweet also this afternoon. If December 2021 ended yesterday, it would have likely have been a pretty average month temperature-wise across much of Scotland, or at least the Highlands. But of course, we are going to see the milder air lifting north, and I think we're going to just edge towards the above normal territory in terms of temperature for the Highlands. And even the past 7 days, while Bournemouth, for example, they use this the city as an example, well above normal during the month of December. But Aviemore and surrounding areas has actually been below normal temperature-wise over the last 7 days. So just worth paying attention to that, because it hasn't been mild across the board over the UK, and the chill has been lingering right up until yesterday. Really, daytime temperatures really struggling, and overnight temperatures -3 to -6 Celsius quite widely. But the Atlantic at the moment is pretty much stuck to the west of the UK, high pressure over the near continent. So, of course, we're getting this long fetch of very, very warm winds, and indeed that transport of air that really should be, down towards the Azores, the Canaries. We're talking about temperatures that are over the British Isles. So, pretty significant, of course, indeed. And as we press into the New Year period, it looks as if the Atlantic is eventually going to start to kind of push in. We're going to weaken heights just enough over Europe that basically we get low pressure from the Atlantic to kind of move into the UK. So what that does is it cuts off that warm southwesterly feed, and we get, yes, still mild air into the UK, but it's going to be much more of a kind of typical mild, if you will, over the Atlantic here through the course of early next week. And then as we go towards the middle portion of next week, we may start to see colder air becoming entrained. Now, you've probably heard of the term zonality, and that basically means west to east winds blowing across the Atlantic. So firm Atlantic-driven weather pattern, I think, for the next week to 10 days at the very least. We've got a pretty strong jet stream. But what's interesting is if you cast your eyes over to North America, we're going to start to increase the thermal balance, the thermal gradient over the North American continent. We've got temperatures of -40, not that far from the northern plains of the United States, while we're still talking about exceptionally warm weather down across the southeastern portion of the United States. What's going to happen is, and what's going to invigorate the jet stream over the Atlantic over the next 5 to 7 days, is that we're going to start to see some of that colder air over the continent of North America shift eastwards. And what that does is it increases the gradient, the pressure and the temperature gradient over the eastern portion of North America. It then increases the strength of the jet stream. But also, what we're going to start to see is that colder air over the continent start to kind of push out over the North Atlantic. And what is going to happen is, I believe, is we're going to start to see increasingly cold winds coming across the Atlantic here. And what we need to watch out for is, because you can have a positive Arctic oscillation, we can have a positive North Atlantic oscillation, and still have a cold pattern, if you will, over the British Isles. We've seen significant snow, not just confined to Scotland, but you would typically favour more Scotland as opposed to England and Wales. But we can get heavy snowfall and cold weather over the British Isles with a cold zonal pattern, or a cold Atlantic-driven pattern. And I think what we're going to start to see is we're going to see the weather change in shape initially over North America, and that will start to progress eastwards from North America into Europe here. So I think we are going to turn colder. The Atlantic is going to maintain itself over the UK, so we're not going to necessarily have any kind of easterly or beasterly coming in anytime particularly soon. But with colder air entrained and wrapped within these areas of low pressure, what we need to watch out for is increasing chance of snowfall, believe it or not. Now, that is going to be hard to take in, considering that we're going to be seeing temperatures, up as far as Scotland, 15 degrees, 16, maybe 17 degrees across the southeast of England here. But it's going to be interesting to see as we go forward here. So this is the overview chart of the GFS. Now, of course, you can see the trough deep over the North Atlantic, extending way down towards the Azores here. And of course, with high pressure at 1028 millibars centered over the Alps, that is why we're seeing such warm weather, because we're seeing quite a southerly extension of that trough. The base of the trough digs right the way down into the subtropics, and that is allowing the air to get picked up and dragged and driven northwards all the way into the British Isles here. So that is why we're seeing such warm weather across the British Isles here. As we skip through the next several days, this is of course New Year's Eve, and we're seeing that warm air progress ever further north. Big area of low pressure with multiple centres spinning around that low over the North Atlantic. Eventually what happens is we start to see the heights coming down over the near continent, and that system over the Atlantic starts to kind of make an approach in the UK. So it cuts off that very warm southwesterly flow, and we start to see the Atlantic becoming a little bit more active as we go forward here. Now, it's as we go through the weekend and into the early portion of next week, we'll start to see the multiple centres of low pressure over the Atlantic start to kind of spin off the mother low and across the UK. As this happens, that's when we start to entrain colder air from the north once again. So we're going to start to tap that cold air that's not a million miles, by the way, to the north of the British Isles and drag it south. And then as we press through the period, these areas of low pressure that feed off North America will start to entrain colder and colder air. Now, of course, as these areas of low pressure cross over the Atlantic, they pick up warmth from the Atlantic, so they'll lose some of that potency of cold associated with the lows. But all the while, once they reach the UK, we can see a mixture of precipitation, heavy rain, but also heavy sleet and snow mixed in as well. As the area of low pressure then pushes to the east, then of course we've got the colder air that gets pulled in from that area of low pressure into the UK, and with increased chance of snow here. So it's going to get interesting as we go forward here, folks. It's not all doom and gloom like a lot of people seem to believe. And you can have a look here at the 850 millibar temperatures, because this is where I think it's going to get interesting. So let's skip right back and see the pattern that we've got now. So of course we've got the warmer, super warmer getting transported all the way up into the UK with the big wheel of low pressure to the west. Then as that system to the west then kind of nudges into the UK, shuts off that warm southwest wind, of course, as I've explained already, we get less mild air. Then as we press through the loop, early mid next week, one low pushes to the east, and we've got a surge of colder air coming in. Then as I speak, we're seeing the Atlantic becoming more active, and these areas of low pressure become a little bit more colder, each one that passes through here. So we're going to keep our eyes on that. And of course, I've made mention of the stratosphere, and we're going to keep our eyes on that as well. Nothing's written in stone. There is no guarantee of a sudden stratospheric warming. But what I do believe is that there is an increased chance, based on the parameters that I've explained already, based on what the models are actually showing, of an SSW developing later down the road. Any cold that comes, I think, through the majority of January is going to be with an Atlantic-driven weather pattern here. Lows pass through, then we get the cold air tapped in from the north on the backside of these systems here. So it's going to be something worth paying attention to. In the next video, what I will try and do is look at the snow prospects, believe it or not. Despite the fact that we've got the positive Arctic Oscillation developing, the positive NAO developing, and at this moment in time, the stratosphere is reasonably strong and cold. So that is none of these factors are a player in any type of cold pattern that we get. But there's a lot of cold air available to tap across the northern hemisphere, and we'll just continue to watch this space. Hopefully I'll have a video again tomorrow, and I'll be back with more information. Hope you liked the video. Please, of course, like, share and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Do check out marklandweather.com. I continue to appreciate every view, every comment, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Bye for now.